Whoa, click there and oh. Alrighty, welcome everybody to Houston. We have a problem. It's just after Christmas, 27th of December. And today was, for the meme stocks, it was mostly red. Not too deeply red, but mostly red. Yeah, just kind of like dropped a little bit, but not much. Down like 2% maybe across the board for most of them. But a lot of the blue chips saw a lot of green today. Crypto saw a lot of green. Yeah, crypto, Bitcoin popped back over 50,000. It's happy. Doge, all the crypto things are what they do. But we're still waiting on that squeeze that JP Morgan was saying was coming. Yeah, that's. Hope you guys had a nice Christmas. I had a great Christmas and then got snowed in at my mom's place and had to wait until the sun melted some snow before I could drive home in my crappy car because the war rig still doesn't have an engine. But, I made it home. Monkey Butt made it home. She's happy. She got to play in some snow. She's a happy dog, right? Just give me side eye. Yeah, so let's just go right into what you're thinking here. Okay. Brian Andrews asks, possible that market makers could print naked shares so hedge funds can cover until an open positions rested on the one market maker who kept the price suppressed while others closed. Only that one gets liquidated. That was my initial theory, was that they're going to try and spread out the squeeze as long as possible. And I think the smart play would have been to probably close a lot of other ancillary positions that aren't like GameStop or AMC, and then maybe dump that liability onto one of the groups. But what we're seeing instead is that in order to try and depress the price of AMC and GME, we're seeing other stocks that are in ETFs that trade these two are getting like incredibly shorted. We're seeing some of them drop like 90% overnight to keep the ETF price down, to keep the price of GameStop and AMC down. I think all they've done is just dig the hole deeper and make themselves more in trouble, have greater liability in the end. Yes, they're keeping the price somewhat depressed, but that depressed price is still, 50 to 100 times more than it was a year ago. So, or a year and a half ago. So that's still liability that has to be closed. And I don't think that they can do that. And plus, if they were to like work together and try to get it so like the one market maker is liable for this stuff, that's RICO problems. That's racketeering. That is collusion in the financial markets and essentially organized crime, and all of them will go to prison for that. So they can't be conspiring like that. So, Jonathan K. Houston, don't forget the intro. Oh yeah, intro. Boom. Ha! Done. Thank you, Jonathan K. Besides GME and AMC, what is your next favorite play? Like shitcoins, something that lottery tickets in stocks bigger than MMTLP, Godspeed, just to infinity and beyond. I think it's going to be among these ancillary plays, things like Be Big or Root or, one of those things that are just so heavily shorted right now that they can't escape it. I think Be Big's like 270% short interest, which doesn't include whatever naked shorts have been created for them. And their price, was $8-10 just a few months ago. Now it's down to like $2 and change. And they've got this special dividend share spinoff coming, and a lot of different things. So yeah, I think it'd be one of those guys. But I'll be honest, Unusual Whales is way better at picking that stuff than I ever am. I'm late to the party oftentimes. When I'm like, oh, that thing took off. Cool. Grandpa Barney, really, my brother, we can have a storm. Happy holidays. I know we can we not have a storm? Yeah, it's out my window right now. It's really hard for you guys to see because it's kind of washed out, but it's just snow. That's just snow out there. we got like 4 inches, but it's all like an inch or two of ice because that's Seattle. And they're supposed to get more on Thursday. Should be a big dumping on Thursday, I think. So it's just gonna be cold and icy, and lots of hills around here. So people from like Minnesota are always like, "You guys don't know how to drive in snow." And all my friends from Minnesota that live here are like, "My God, how do you people survive?" You just stay home. That's what you do. It snows, you stay home, because every road is like that. But at least it didn't become an ice storm. Those are the worst. But yes, Grandpa Barney, I'm sure you had to do some power, fix some power around the area. Hope you got to enjoy at least Christmas Day itself. If not spending all the yesterday fixing people's power. Chuck Kosecki, post-COVID, do you see any potential population shifts, voting outcome changes, or any lasting sociological impact? Also, your stalker is a chode. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be interesting. I think that there's been sort of mass exodus out of major cities. In these major cities, people are just they're leaving because they don't have to be at work, and they don't have to be in the office building, and they discovered they can work from anywhere, so they're going to moving back to their parents, or finding little homes out in the country, or moving to Hawaii or whatever. They're finding places they can do remote working. And I think what that's going to do is depress commercial real estate in these cities, LA, New York, Seattle, Baltimore, wherever. And you're going to see cheap rent, which is going to create sort of bohemian renaissance in a lot of these cities, because a lot of artists and musicians and creative types will be able to finally move back into the urban environments, have warehouses and flats and factory floors, whatever they can do all sorts of cool stuff with. And there's going to be sort of an urban renaissance that happens after that. This is where like the Seattle grunge scene came from in the 90s, was that the Seattle real estate market had completely collapsed from the 70s and 80s. And Boeing closed down the supersonic airplane program. Hundreds of thousands of people left Seattle, and you could rent a storefront in Seattle with an apartment attached to it for like $100 a month. So all these young 20-somethings, they moved into downtown Seattle and the surrounding neighborhoods, and they just partied it up. We're talking artists and bands, and all sorts of awesome stuff happened, and the city rejuvenated as a result of it, and then they all got priced out. And so we're going to go through some sort of cycle like that. We're going to see a lot of downtown real estate in these major cities go unrented, and they're going to get filled with pawn shops and strip clubs and porn stores and whatever else. And then there's going to be weird, quasi hippies selling flannel shirts and used items and artwork, and little nightclubs will pop up and bars. And I think it's it's going to do this cycle. It's going to take 15, 20 years to rejuvenate a lot of these cities. And yeah, I think that's going to be a big shift, is, when the youth get sick of the suburbs, they're going to want to like strike out on their own, and they're going to head to the cities. And so I think the age of the cities is going to get younger. And there's going to be just rock and roll, man. Be a little urban renaissance. But yeah, good question. Okay, William Morgan, market makers and brokers are creating synthetics to make money and help shorts. When they sell synthetics, it benefits them if a share price drops. It does, especially if they aren't supposed to keep that money locked up somewhere. I think a great regulation would be, if you sell short, bing, that money goes into a certain account and cannot be touched until you close. That's it. That you can't use that money to make any other play. That money has to sit there in that account and stay there. I think some of the big problems is that these guys sold short, took that cash, spent it on something else, and now it's gone, and no one has any access to it. So these market makers, if they're doing that, they should have a dedicated account just for things that they sold short or sold naked, and they should not be allowed to touch that money until they close those positions. And I would just love to see the government go, hey, everyone has 35 days to close all their naked shorts, and then we're going to just ban naked shorting altogether. But I'm sure we won't see that until after MOAS. Greg, happy birthday, Houston. If Loopring and GME combine, how long do hedge funds have to cover shorts and close synthetic shares out? I can't find anything on it. As far as I understand it, if GameStop were to pull their shares from the DTCC, from the seed and company and whatnot, is that they have to give a 90-day notice. So my guess is that shorts have 90 days to close out all those positions before they get forced to close them out. And who knows where in that 90 days, like, it'll be left up to them to close before brokerages go, all right, we're taking your money and we are going to sell your positions and we're going to close out all these short positions you have. My guess is somewhere towards the end of that 90 days when the emergency happens. But we're still waiting for that that trigger. We got 4 trading days left for Loopring and GME to truly make their announcement. Ryan Cohn tweeted, yes, he tweeted a man on a toilet with VR goggles on. Woo! Okay. Oh, shoot. That thing's always resetting. Oh, when I got another one from Grandpa Barney. If you are in a fast fighter jet and you shoot a missile or bullets, is the plane becoming a zero platform? Could you pass the bullet or missile as it left the barrel or launch platform on the plane? Well, if you're flying on a plane and you shoot a bullet out, bing, the bullet speed leaving the plane is relative to the plane. So let's say that the plane is flying at, I don't know, 1,000 feet a second, right? And the minigun on the plane shoots a bullet at 3,000 feet a second. That means to an observer on the ground, the bullet is flying at 4,000 feet per second. Now, from the moment it leaves, it is slowing down because there's air resistance acting upon it and gravity is pulling it down. So it's going to arc and eventually fall to the earth if it doesn't hit a target. And so the speed at which it lands on the earth is going to be significantly slower than the 3,000 feet per second it left the barrel, or the 4,000 feet per second that is traveling to the outside observer. If it's a rocket, it's propelled. So it's got its own propellant behind it. So if the plane's flying 1,000 feet per second, you launch the rocket might be going 2,000 feet per second. The plane will not catch up to the rocket until the rocket runs out of fuel and starts slowing down from natural air resistance. So that's probably what you're looking at. Yeah. I don't know if you could pass the bullet necessarily because, you fire off, and if the bullet's slowing down, it's arcing, it might hit the earth before you have a chance to actually pass it. That makes sense? I guess it would depend on how high the plane is flying. If the plane is flying close to the ground, it would definitely hit the earth before the plane would pass the bullet. If you're flying at 50, 60,000 feet, you might actually have a chance. If you fire it, you could, plane's flying, bullet flies out and it's arcing down, and then plane flies by. That could probably work. It's a good question, though. I'll have to get in my MiG-29 and fire off some tracer rounds and find out what the result is, right? Okay, good question. Good question. I don't know if you guys, how many of you follow me on Twitter, but I spent a good chunk of this Christmas weekend trying to explain how space works to a flat earther, and my God, was like beating my head into a wall. The guy offered me $1,000 if basically I could prove how eclipses happen. And he was like, I want you to make a scale model. And I was like, buddy, it is impossible to make a scale model. Namely because if I make the sun the size of a grapefruit, right? And to make a scale model, the Earth would be, let's see, I've got a pen around here somewhere, don't I? Oh yeah. The Earth would be the size of the tip of the ballpoint pen on this pen. So sun's a grapefruit, Earth's the tip of the ballpoint pen, and this ballpoint pen would be 40 or 50 feet away from the sun. Now, if I want to make an eclipse model where I've got an even smaller, tip of a sewing needle or something as the moon, I am not going to be able to recreate an eclipse and show the umbra and penumbra on the surface of the Earth because I don't have the technology to take a picture that fine. Now, if I wanted to make it so the Earth was something of meaningful size, maybe golf ball sized, right? Then I'd make the sun, 8 feet across, 9 feet across, maybe more. And all of a sudden, my entire model becomes like 7-8 miles long. And I don't have a dark enough building that's 7 or 8 miles long for me to put a sun at one end and a golf ball sized Earth at the other with a marble sized moon going around it to create the effect of an eclipse. So I just submitted a diagram showing how the umbra and penumbra works, because you get an eclipse, and baseball around here somewhere, is that, you know, the moon gets in the way and casts a little teeny tiny shadow on the surface of the Earth, just a little one. And as the Earth rotates, that shadow looks like it moves as well. And we've, you know, taken pictures of it in space. It's not that the entire Earth, the light of the entire Earth is blacked out. It's just the light for, you know, 1,000 square mile area or something is blacked out on the very surface of the Earth. And this dude just doesn't get it. I don't know how else to describe it. He doesn't understand that, like, space is black. How come this picture of Mercury doesn't have the sun behind it? Well, because the sun is here, Mercury is here, and there's a space probe taking a picture of Mercury between the sun and Mercury. That's why you can see the surface. But the background isn't all blue, because there's no atmosphere in space. It's the most frustrating thing. Anyway, this dude Daniel owes me $1,000 because I showed him how it works, and he just doesn't agree. But everyone else on the internet seems to understand what I'm laying down. So Daniel, if you're in this chat right now, you can super chat me your $1,000, because you know you promised, and I showed you how eclipses work. Danny B, what are your thoughts on the interview with Dr. Metzler and Boss Blunts? Lots of people calling him a fraud. Well, the only person calling him fraud is Charlie, I think. And I honestly don't understand where Charlie's coming from. The dude exists. He is a person. At first he said he didn't exist and he wasn't a person. Now he's saying he's just some sort of FUD monster. But what he's explaining is stuff that we've been talking about for months now. Is that if assets under management shrink, then your liabilities to your margin explode. And, you know, he's talking a lot about these big, giant defaults coming out of China, which we've been talking about for months now. So it's no different than what we've been talking about. And if you have all these big banks and institutions that all of a sudden have to write off, you know, 10 billion here, 30 billion there, 100 billion here, that the assets under management shrink a lot, because all those bonds that they purchased, that they've been using as collateral against plays they're making on margin and whatnot, and through loans and bonds they sell and all these things, that stuff vanishes. And if you manage this much and you lose a chunk of that, and you still have all this margin out there and liabilities, then the ratio of assets under management to margin increases at a very fast clip. So what Metzler is talking about is legit. We've been talking about it for a long time. This is why it was important for the U.S. to raise the debt ceiling, because so much of the assets under management are U.S. government bonds. And if those U.S. government bonds all of a sudden aren't worth the paper they're printed on, then everyone's assets under management shrink and the entire global economy just crashes instantly. So now we've got, you know, a few trillion in Chinese real estate bonds that are going to go poof over the next year. And we've got probably 8 trillion municipal bonds that are going to do the same thing. And then we've got probably trillions of other bonds for other industries in China that will also collapse as a result of the real estate market, which is 30% of China's economy, right? Real estate market is 30% of China's economy, and it is the largest real estate market in the world. And if the largest real estate market in the world collapses, that brings down the entire global economy. When the United States real estate market collapsed and lost $2.5 trillion in value, that collapsed the entire global economy. Now imagine a bigger real estate market with an even bigger loss, crashing the global economy even more. And they don't have the insurance system set up like we do. China's not just going to print money and send it our way. They're not going to do that. They're like, screw you. Outside investors, we don't care. And they're just going to leave that liability on all those folks who invested in their country, which is going to hurt outside investment in China for a long time. And I don't know exactly what the outcome will be for investment in China after this. They might not get too many eager beavers willing to drop money on them. Grandpa Barney, he owes you $1,333.333 because YouTube takes 30%. Yeah, Yeah, Daniel. You gotta send me 1,300 and change. Otherwise, you're a welcher. Don't be a welcher. I made a bet with a dude in, I don't know, February 2020 when I said COVID's coming. It's gonna crash. It's gonna crash the economy, and expect the Dow to go down 50%. And he's like, "No, not gonna happen." And the Dow went down 37% before we dumped trillions of dollars into the economy at the end of March of 2020, and we staved off that collapse. Now, I lost that bet. It didn't technically drop 50%. It only dropped 37%. I paid the guy. He contacted me. He's like, "Hey, here's the screenshots. You said you're going to pay." And I did. I sent him the money. So if you're going to make a bet, pay. That's the key. Okay. Or was that one? Shoot, I just lost one. Kyle Griffith. Houston, question for you with the GME Loopring announcement. Doesn't Loopring Layer 2 have to drop before it is announced? And for that to happen, does an ETH 2.0 have to launch? All to lower gas fees. Layer 2 already has launched. It is an internal network inside of Loopring that allows you to trade with other folks on Layer 2 for nominal gas fees. What would be nice would be to have Ethereum 2.0 finally drop, which we've missed like another deadline for that, so that just ETF gas fees drop for everybody, because it is ridiculously expensive. When I was complaining about Problemo coins and trying to get Problemo coins to folks, it was going to cost me like $20 per transaction. Now it's like $120 per transaction. To take these coins, which have no value whatsoever, and to give them to people is going to cost me $120 per time I do that. That is not a sustainable way of having a cryptocurrency that you want to like overtake the world. Which goes on to Bullish on Houston's second intro. Happy birthday, Houston. Hope you had a great Christmas. I did a pretty good Christmas. In your opinion, do you see crypto overtaking fiat in 20 years, or do you just think it will remain an asset forever? Well, right now, a lot of crypto is supported by speculation. And that speculation is kind of similar to what is causing the Chinese real estate market to collapse, which is greater fool theory or paradox or whatever you want to call it, where you buy a useless piece of property because a man without property in China isn't anything. And if you want to get married, you want to entice a wife, you gotta say, "Hey, I own an apartment in this city," even though it's not livable and doesn't have stairs that go to it, no plumbing or light fixtures or whatever, just a concrete shell. And your goal is that a year down the road, an even greater fool is going to buy that from you for more money, because that guy's thinking, "Hey, in a year, an even greater fool is going to buy that from me for even more money." And a lot of crypto operates on this purpose. You have an NFT. "I've got a one-of-a-kind NFT." Cool. You've got a picture that some child can do in Paint. Awesome. Now, you bought this thing for however many Ethereum, and your entire value in this one-of-a-kind NFT is that months or a year from now, a greater fool is going to come along and buy it from you for more. And they're buying it hoping that a year from now, somebody's going to come along and buy it for more. So that's not a sustainable way of operating the value of an asset. Now, the artist is going to get 2% of that whenever it trades. They're golden. But I had to have this flood on the market of all these like digital pictures. And we've got thousands of cryptocurrencies now. There's nothing rare or unique in that case. And when the functional value of these crypto coins are for money laundering, tax evasion, paying for crime, and so on, then all that's going to do is result in the federal government regulating these cryptocurrencies. And once they're regulated, they're fiat, baby. So, we calculate the value of all these cryptocurrencies in comparison to fiat. So if fiat didn't exist, then there is no value to these cryptocurrencies. They are completely tied to the intrinsic value of government-backed finance. So I don't see 20 years down the road it changing much unless the government either issues their own decentralized currency or regulates the ones that exist. It's the Wild West, and so we're still in this like feeling things out range, and anything can happen. You know, Bitcoin can shoot to $1 million all of a sudden, and everyone goes woo, or you know, it all gets stolen out of people's wallets. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet the other day of the guy who had his MetaMask wallet cleared out by the firmware for a dildo, USB chargeable dildo that he bought. Like it cleaned out his MetaMask wallet, done, gone, sent off somewhere. So much crime is involved with these cryptocurrencies that makes it really hard to see it as a legit currency. Like, are you going to use Ethereum to buy a pack of gum? 25-cent pack of gum at Rite Aid. Are you going to go use 25 cents of Ethereum to buy that gum? Right now, no, because that 25 cents of Ethereum is going to have a $120 transaction fee attached to it. So that stick of gum is going to cost you $120.25. Now, that is not a good price for Ethereum. You need to make some better system than that, right? And because it's all on the blockchain, everyone can see what wallet it came from. You know, it's one thing like to make a purchase through an online retailer so that the online retailer and your bank understand the purchase. It's another thing to make a purchase and anyone on Earth, anyone can be like, oh, you bought a whole bunch of sex magazines or a prostitute or whatever with your cryptocurrency. There is something to be said about privatization, and a lot of the Etherscan and logbooks out there, these ledgers, really take away that anonymity that folks have with things like cash. So, you know, I don't know. It's up in the air as to where it's going to be in the future. Slayer J1. Will the James Webb Telescope be able to take high-resolution images of neighboring systems and their planets? It will take high-res. There's no atmosphere to look through, so the resolution is going to be phenomenal. The camera is phenomenal. The mirror is really big. It's 6 meters across. It's huge. Now, the magnification will be significant, but the resolution is going to be more important. And I think with the technology in the James Webb Space Telescope, we might not see like a planet and see its cloud structures and everything, but we'll see a little dot or a little round circle next to a star, and we'll be able to isolate it and run it through a spectrometer and find out what the atmosphere of that planet is made of. And that's going to be the game changer that James Webb Space Telescope offers. I don't think you'll be like looking at a star system 1,000 light years away and take a picture of a planet and it'll look like us taking a picture of Neptune or something. It's not going to be that clear and that big, but you will be able to look at that point of light and measure the gases that are in the atmosphere of that planet and say, hey, this thing's got 78% nitrogen and 22% oxygen. We're ready to go. We could live on that planet, and that could be the type of information we get out of it. Oh, good questions today. Lots of good questions today. Terry Smith. Well, he gives us some accolades there. He says, I'm a great bloke. Thank you. Respect my opinions. Thank you. Very smart. Thank you. Insightful. Also genuine. I try. You'd be great fun to have. Are you banking on retirement wealth from GME and somewhat planning your near future around it? Or do you see it as more of a lottery ticket that may or may not pay off? I see it as a lottery ticket with really high odds is how I'm viewing it. I still have like, you know, a couple hundred a month that goes into mutual funds, index funds, and then makes that play for the future in case whatever happens. I still have an ability to retire. But the fact that these hedge funds are in so deep means they have to claw themselves out somehow. And the only way they can do that is to pay us. And it's going to be a lot of moolah. So I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. So that's I will take that lotto ticket. It's pretty close to guaranteed, in my opinion. Okay, I'm only 30 minutes behind. I finally just got to the chats that started right when I began the show. What I get for Christmas? Socks, underwear, pants, and oh, one sec. Ugh. And this week's reading material, the 2022 Almanac. So hopefully I have this thing cover to cover done. Probably a little after the first, but it's my favorite book to get every year. I read it cover to cover every year. So that means this guy can leave this shelf and go back here next to the 2020 Almanac. There we go. All right. It's on to the new love. Fresh new love for the year. Okay. But yes, get my Almanac every year. Get my Almanac fix in. What else I get for Christmas, Monkey? You got a big old bag of chicken jerky. Yeah, you like that. Yeah. Ooh. It's a Grandpa Barney show today. What do you think of Sundial as a future squeeze? Thanks, my bro. Dinner on me. Your choice. Got to meet my island bro. Heck yeah. Barney, message me on Twitter. We will hang out. I think Sundial's a squeeze. I don't really pay attention. I have it on like my meme stock list. But like weed stocks they're Canadian weed stock. I know that. That's about it. So a lot of weed stocks out there were big plays initially, got shorted to shit, but then a lot of Republicans are buying up weed stocks like crazy, and they're trying to get it legalized. And I think that they're all playing for a big jump on that. The folks who were the initial investors and they sold at highs, they made a killing. But what is Sundial's current short interest percent? Short interest ratio for Sundial. Where are you? Short interest ratio 2.8. So it's listing about 30% short interest. Which, that means there's probably a lot that aren't reported that are naked. So, I mean, that puts it in squeeze territory for sure. It's tied right in there with all those other meme stocks. So the short interest potential is there. I'm sure that when MOAS happens, this will be one of the guys that goes puny pop. Rides that train right along with them. Okay. Squamps, Houston Pyre had a 22,000% increase in volume and shot up from $2 to $5. I did not see that. One of those things that I missed today. Current price. Give it to me. Where is 30 days? Show me a graph. Oops, let's go. Boom. I forgot to put that on. Why don't you give me anything? Give me something. Show it to me. Why is no graph appearing? The dates are changing. But no graph. No, I don't. Leave me alone. Okay, let's just go to Yahoo. Quit giving me this crap and just stupid. All right. Okay, here we go. Yeah, rocket to $5, settled at 3.6. What is? Yeah, no one cared. 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 And all of a sudden, on Thursday, people started caring, and by Monday, the price had gone bingo. So man, I wonder what happened with that. Biogenesis announces the launch of new ZCE hydrogen production process following the filing of international patents. So that was a couple weeks ago. I wonder if nothing else has come out since then. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. This is where it was a couple months ago. Shorted down and went right back up again. I wonder if people are buying it up. I'll have to go deeper into that there, Squamsk. Do you think we'll have a run up before year end? Well, I mean, that's what the big boys are predicting, is that there'll be a run up before year end. So, I don't know if we'll see much personally now until we get closer to that week 3 where those yearlies are coming due. Because there's a whole bunch of yearlies that are going to be going green even at this price level. And then at prices above that, any growth in this just triggers like another 1 million shares that have to be purchased. So as it climbs, just millions and millions of shares go in the money, and there's going to be a whole lot of buying to have to cover those positions. That's from Dino C. Mudflaps, Houston, do you think the moon is hollow, put there by intelligent beings from beyond? No. The moon is made up of old Earth. So about 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized planet smacked into Earth, splattered a whole bunch of material into space. That stuff coalesced and formed the moon. And that's what the moon is from. The moon is crustal material from the Earth. That's why the moon's density, like the density of the entire moon, is the same as the density of the crust of the Earth, because it's just crust material that got splattered into space and coalesced. And we can find markers on the moon that sort of signal similar to markers on Earth. The Deep Bore project that happened in the Soviet Union in the 70s, where they drilled down like 16 miles. Some of the material in there is reminiscent of an extrasolar planet that hit the Earth. So they think that that's the side that was hit by the rogue planet that smacked into us and created the moon. Project Sun, Houston, did you get a chance to read Girk's new DD about possibly being in the squeeze already? Yeah, squeeze bingo. I read that last night. I mean, when the squeeze happens is when the buying happens. And that's what we're not seeing, is we're not seeing this huge 100 million volume days like we were seeing last spring for GameStop. We need to see the volume take off and watch that stuff rocket to the top. That's what we're waiting on. Houston, what's your thoughts from Legacy 10 Productions? Houston, what's your thoughts on the dinosaur embryo they found in China? Can we make Jurassic Park? Go Mariners, happy birthday. The embryo is fossilized, so no, there's not going to be any DNA in there for us to get. So all of the cell structure inside the little embryo has been replaced by minerals, and it's basically a rock. It's a rock that is dinosaur embryo shaped. So no, we can't get it from that. Although, I think we should try drilling into some amber and seeing if we can get some DNA out of that sucker, because why not? That might be preserved in their soft tissue. Lost Waves. During the MOAS episode stream, can we get an intro every 15 minutes? Sure. That's no skin off my back. We can do that. Blockbuster's back up 9,100% again. Gosh, dang it. It's not showing up on here. Blockbuster. Where is? Come on, man. Come on, man. It's not showing me on here. There we are. That's what we want. What the heck, man? So is that, what, 11? And now it's at 33? What? Makes no sense. Oh, shit. Wink. There we go. So, for most of December, sitting at 11, 12 cents. Today, it is at 33 cents. And then last fall, or this past fall, we had highs at 70. Okay. Oh, sorry. No, sorry, not 31 cents. We're at 0.3 of a cent. That's where we are. But still, people. This must mean that folks that are on the expert market had to be like making a killing off of this every day when they trade these things. All right. Huh. Weird, man. What's Sears doing then? SH LDQ. What's Q? Sears holding. Sears had a pop today. Nah, Sears isn't doing anything. It's still sitting around 2 cents. Not anything exciting. Not like in September when we got to 70 cents or so. Well, oh, Carlos Arreo Cruz, thank you for the banana. And Jimmy D, if you had to do one, steroids or HGH? If I had to pick one, steroids or HGH, I'd probably go HGH rather than steroids if I had to. Because I don't think the side effects of HGH are as gnarly as steroids are. Steroids, side effects are like cancer, small weenies, your head getting too big, problems with like kidneys and other organs. I haven't heard of such side effects with HGH. I know like Stallone just loads himself up with HGH, and you know it gives him the face of a Cro-Magnon, but more power to him. At 70-something years old, still like punching the heads off of things in Rambo movies. But yeah, that's a good question. Monkey, what would you do? My cat's on steroids. My cat has asthma and has to take I can never say it. Prednisolone. Otherwise, he dry heaves everywhere and nothing ever comes out. And it broke the circuit in my brain. You know, like when a cat starts doing like, and you're like, oh no, the kitty's gonna puke, and you grab the cat and you throw it in the bathtub or whatever so it can like get its business somewhere other than the carpet. I did that with my cat for like 6 weeks and nothing ever came out. So I finally called the vet and like, hey, we need to have a vet session because my new cat is constantly dry heaving and I'm wondering if there's a hairball the size of a basketball inside of him and it just can't get out. So I take him to the vet. She listens to his little chest. She goes, oh, your cat has asthma. We just need to give him steroids. He'll be fine. So I have to like grind up one of these pills every couple of days like a drug dealer and then sprinkle it on his food. And then he ends up as a fatty boobalatti who doesn't have wheezing and dry heaving everywhere. So there you go. Three shows with no intro accidents. Am I at a record? I've got my little turn off the intro thing here. Oh, one of the things I got for Christmas, which hasn't arrived yet, but my little sister got me like 100 Houston We Have a Problem stickers. So I guess I'll be giving those out. So we'll figure out how to get you guys stickers. Drive with Valerian. Hi, do you think Ubisoft's recent NFT failure has any impact on whatever GameStop is working on? I had not heard about Ubisoft NFT. Well, they're still doubling down, but no one was buying them. So that was Kotaku. This is the Ghost Recon ones. All right. Go away. I don't think these NFTs were anything other than pictures, right? Oh no, there were skins and stuff. All right. All right. So, I mean, trying to think about like when there was a market for in-game things, and the big markets were like the Chinese gold mining operations for like World of Warcraft and stuff, where you had these dudes sitting in internet cafes all day long, just getting gold and driving XP up on their characters, and then selling those characters to Westerners who didn't want to start at a low level, right? And that was and is still a huge market. Now, if the skin allows you to do something amazing, right? Like, oh, my gun can now kill everyone with one shot, and it is, you know, makes them lord of everything. Why wouldn't you want that? Now, playing 600 hours in a game is absolutely bonkers. That is a lot of time to spend. That's a full-time job playing a video game. So it's going to be only offered to a couple of people. And is it worth it? Like 600 hours? Let's bring up the calculator. Let's do the calculator here. So turn off Chrome. Calculator's on. So let's say that your video game playing time, right? 600 hours is worth $20 an hour. So that NFT, you spent $12,000 in time to get yourself that skin for that gun, or those pants, or whatever, right? Or a mask, whatever it is that they're getting here. Now, you spent 600 hours to get this one item. Is someone going to pay you the $12,000 of the time it took to get that for you? I don't see that happening. I don't see someone like, yeah, this $60 video game, I'm going to spend $12,000 on an NFT for that skin. And the person who has it, if they're not getting a pile of money for it, they're not. If someone offers them $20, they're not going to sell it. So I think there's a problem with that. Now, if this NFT, you can trade cross-platform, right? So you have this special NFT, and somebody has something, a different game that you want. You guys should be able to trade that stuff on their platform. And you can get, trade the mask from Ubisoft for pants that you might get on Call of Duty or whatever. Yeah, you should be able to trade that stuff cross-platform. But I think being stuck in the single platform at the moment, there just isn't much demand. And, who's going to pay $12,000 for a skin when a year from now a new version of the game is going to come out and you're not going to play that old version anymore? So the intrinsic value of this stuff is kind of not there. I think that's kind of where we are on that one. Okay. Kyle Griffith, XRT squeeze. Girk talked a little bit about that today. Possibly. Because XRT has so many of these meme stocks loaded up in there, and so many things have been shorted to shit inside of that, inside of those ETFs. GameStop squeezes, ETF squeezes. That's what's gonna happen. Those ETFs are just gonna rocket along with them, and the only reason the ETFs right now are depressed is because the hedge funds still have power. They still have power. They still have capital. They still have margin, and they're able to short the stocks inside those ETFs and depress the price. But the minute they face liquidation, they no longer can do those things. So everything they shorted is going to go and just keep going. All right. E-Trade a good broker? Will they get obliterated? E-Trade is fine. They are a big broker with big boy issues. Not one of the trading platforms like Webull or Robinhood. Okay. Everton Lacerda. Houston, would you be more impressed if we are the only intelligent species in this whole universe, or if there are several others equal or more advanced across the galaxies? Well, according to Drake equation, it's likely we're the only ones currently in our galaxy, but that an intelligent life appears about once every 10,000 years inside our own galaxy. Now, there are odds that more than one can exist at the same time, but considering how we're so close to just nuclear annihilation or making our planet so uninhabitable that we kill off everything, it might be that when intelligence pops up, it only lasts for a couple hundred years before they destroy themselves. And by intelligence, we talk about like the ability to broadcast our existence through radio waves to the rest of the universe. And the minute we do that, we start using incredible amounts of energy. The tech gets better. We produce tons of waste, and we change our atmosphere, and we overheat everything. And then we have weird stuff like 70 degrees in Chicago on Christmas. So, and tornadoes in December when we used to have a tornado season that was like springtime. Stuff's weird. You know, the Champagne region of France can no longer grow champagne, and that region is moved into England. And so now the champagne growers are all moving to England to grow their champagne. It's we're in changing times, man. Things are in flux. Now, would I be impressed if we're the only ones? I think it'd be kind of sad. I would love to like know what else is out there. But if there are other creatures out there and they can get to us, they're probably pretty either super benevolent or super terrifying. That's probably the two balances we got there, two scales in the balance. Now think about like humans, right? We go somewhere. What have we done in the past when we go to explore? We subjugate everything in our path. We kill off whatever's there and take over. That is how we did conquest across the oceans, and we wiped out anyone who was in our way. Now, would that translate to us being conquistadors across space, explorers across space? Would we kill whatever's in our way and take their stuff? I mean, the historical record's there. Are we more enlightened now than we were then? There are cases to be made for that. I mean, the Marauders that were the Vikings that were in Scandinavia were the most violent culture on Earth, and now pretty much the most peaceful culture on Earth. So we can change. We do have the capacity for change. I would be curious to see if we actually follow through with that as a species as a whole. And yeah, we just wrote a check for $780 billion for our military budget here in the U.S. So I still think that we are quite warlike creatures, at least Americans. Americans just as good a chance exploring the galaxy as the other superpowers do, and they don't seem any more peaceful. So, get philosophical there and think on that one a little more. Okay, I'm only 50 minutes behind in the chat. Man, how is it that some chats I can kind of keep up on it, but most chats I'm just so far behind. Okay. Whoa. And of course that just reset, and I'm probably so far back here that, oh no, not that bad. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll ahead. If I miss your chats, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and get a little more up to date here and see what we get. Okay. Daphne Berry, Houston, can you give tips on the best way to invest, buy gold and silver, since most of us can't mine it and melt our own? Also, Metzler brought up getting our money out of banks fast. Any advice? I'm not worried about us losing our wealth that's inside of banks, simply because as long as you take that, money and you spread it out among a whole bunch of accounts, right? Then you got insurance on each one of those accounts up to $250,000 or $500,000, whichever your insurance is for your bank, FDIC or SDIC, whatever the one is for credit unions. That's the word I'm looking for. And just open, like, if you have $1 million in a bank account, talk to your banker, open up another savings account, and put that chunk into there, or like spread it out. That way, if your bank takes tanks, you can be insured by the federal government for all that stuff. But buying gold, the easiest way to buy gold is through a gold mutual fund. Like, you don't need the physical gold. You just invest in somebody who invests in gold. And a gold mutual fund, there's lots of them. There's like Gold Buyers of America. There's lots of them out there. And they just have a Fort Knox of their own. And every time you give them $1, they take that dollar and buy some gold with it, stick it in their vault. Supposedly. Suppose that's what they do. I don't know. I've never checked their vault. I have no idea if anything's in there. And that's kind of how it rolls. That, and there's like gold ETFs and ones that are focused on mining operations and things like that. Those will probably all spike with the price of gold as well. If you want physical gold, great ways to do it is auctions, estate sales. You can buy an old, like, ladies' watch from the 1950s that's broken and it's 14 karat gold. You just got yourself like an ounce of 14 karat gold. Rad. Good to go. That ounce of 14 karat gold trades for, $1,100 an ounce or whatever. If you picked it up for cheaper than that, then you just made a whole bunch of money. And you can sell that to scrappers. You can sell it, put on eBay, sell it there. But generally you'll get the most money if you do have the ability to like smelt it down and refine it and get, make an ingot out of it. But yeah, looking at auctions and estate sales is probably the best way to pick up gold and silver. You can pick up, you might be lucky and find a silver platter at a Goodwill, and it's $5 and it contains $200 in silver because it's 10 ounces or whatever. You can find deals that way. So make sure it's solid and not plated, if that's the case. Peachy Sunday, Houston, did you watch Don't Look Up? Yes. Not about asteroid mining. It's about a comet that's going to destroy Earth. But it's really good. I highly recommend it. It really plays well to human response to impending disaster, which we have quite a bit of happening right now. We've got a climate crisis that's smacking us in the face, and no one in power will do anything about it. We have a pandemic that was smacking us in the face, and no one's really doing anything about it. So this is much more imminent. Like, all of humanity is going to die in 6 months. We need to stop this thing. And the powers that be are like, my poll numbers aren't that great right now. I really can't have a disaster come out. And there's just this complete disconnect between like a finite end to everything and the current tiny little problems facing the politicians and bureaucrats involved. And it does a magnificent job sort of satirizing the powers that be, and a really good job. Like, Jennifer Lawrence was brilliant, absolutely brilliant as an astronomy grad student. I mean, she nailed it. My only qualm is the beginning of the film when they find the comet. You don't have the lights on in the dome while you're taking pictures. Also, the Subaru telescope's at 14,000 feet, and so the observers are not sitting at a computer next to the giant telescope. They are in a building that is heated, that is not at all exposed to the 25-degree weather that's going on outside the telescope at 14,000 feet. And the grad students aren't all hanging out like doing math on a whiteboard, because at 14,000 feet your brain doesn't work very well. And if you've got to do integrals at 14,000 feet, your head just can't do it. So you go down to the classroom at sea level, and that's where you do those calculations, because no one's brain works that well at 14,000 feet. But beyond that, someone said that Leonardo DiCaprio's rant was very similar to when I get on a rant, which I'll take that as a compliment, because it's a good movie. It's on Netflix, so if you got Netflix, watch it. It's long. It's like 2.5 hours long, but I was cracking up the entire time. I thought it was hilarious and absolutely very well done, and the satire is brilliant. Okay. Oh, Robin Hood Can you explain the single electron theory? Yeah, it's more a single electron hypothesis, but basically the idea is there's only one electron in existence, and everything shares that electron. And because electrons moving at the speed of light, it can be anywhere and everywhere at the same time. And so every time you look at an electron, you're looking at that electron at just, you look at the same electron. So you pulse a bunch of electrons to something, it's the same electron, because the electron can be infinitely anywhere because time is dilated so much it can be all electrons. And that's kind of the basis of single electron theory. I don't buy it because, namely, there are points in space where the electron cannot travel and must be carried by matter. So if that single electron is everywhere all at once, how does it get through the vacuum of space without being transported? Like, there are galaxies 14 billion light years away that are emitting light because electrons are changing energy levels, right? And light comes across the universe. Well, how would the electron here, that is singularly attached to all the pieces of matter on Earth, get across the vacuum of space and also be the same electron that is operating and changing all those energy levels across the universe? I think the single electron theory is cute, but not plausible. So I would call it single electron hypothesis, and I would say it's wrong. There you go. Hope that explains it. If not, I can try again later. Sorry if I'm missing some of your chats here. I'm just trying to find something good. Chris T, I saw on Reddit a joke that the first picture from the Webb Telescope was a picture of a label that said "removed before flight." That would be right up NASA's alley. I mean, it took almost 30 years, 28 years to get Hubble Space Telescope into space, and when they got it there, they didn't calculate for the spherical aberration of being in a zero-G environment, and so you couldn't take any pictures until they fixed it. I'm wondering what kind of, we didn't think of that moment is going to happen with the 24-year time scale of getting the James Webb Telescope launched. There's going to be something. I mean, there's 341 steps to unfolding all the mirrors and the heat shields and everything else. And if one of those goes wrong, the whole thing doesn't work. And it's going to be doing all that stuff 1 million miles away from Earth. So there's no way for us to send a shuttle up there to go like tweak it like we did with the Hubble Space Telescope, which orbits, low Earth orbit. So yeah, I don't know how, if there is a problem with any one of those 341 systems, that $9 billion telescope is just a paperweight floating in space. A testament to our ineptitude and inefficiency. Damn it, lens cap. What the fuck is a World Almanac? The greatest compilation of data available to anyone everywhere that's not on the internet. This is, you don't even know what to search for sometimes. But if you read the sucker cover to cover, you have an idea of what the best-selling books of the year were, what famous people lived and died, obesity rates, largest companies in the world, biggest banks with the most assets, tallest buildings, most populous cities. It is like, everything, all-time NCAA running back records. It's everything in here. It is everything. It is 1 million words of everything in the World Almanac, and it is fantastic. And I recommend everybody read the Almanac cover to cover every year. We would be so much more informed. Bullion Z, can a synthetic short be closed after buying a synthetic share? I think you mentioned it before. I'm not mistaken. Ish. If you buy the synthetic share that you created, you can eliminate a synthetic short. If you bought someone else's synthetic share, what you can do is you can take that synthetic share and you can swap out a synthetic with someone else and delete your own. And so then that synthetic share is someone else's problem they got to deal with. That's kind of how it works. So, yeah. And they need to buy the synthetic shares. Those are the things they need to eliminate. And so they can either eliminate them by buying them and deleting them from existence, or buying a legit share and replacing the synthetic with the legit share. So as long as they're buying shares, they're probably going to be closing positions at some point. Okay. Hey, kitty cat. Get over here. Can you explain a wash sale? What does it mean if you committed such a heinous act? Thanks. A wash sale is essentially to reduce your tax liability. So let's say you bought something at $10 and it's worth $9, but you think the play is going to be much higher than that. You can sell that stock now, and then on your taxes you record a 10% loss on your investment, and so you don't pay taxes. You get a tax rebate of however much you lost on that sale. But in 30 days, you can go back and you can buy those shares up and maybe buy them back at $9 again. And all of a sudden, you have a stock that you bought for $9 that could be worth way more if there's a big play that happens. And then you get to realize your gains. So wash sales are a way of sort of covering your tracks and reducing your tax liability, especially at the end of the year. If like the price and everything is kind of right now, if you sell all that stuff and buy back 30 days or more, get back into it, and you reduce your taxes on the year, and you're good to go. But most of us, I think, got into like GME at $17, $60, $40, whatever. So trading at $140 to $150 does not mean we can sell at a loss. It means if we sold now, we would be selling at a profit, and we have to pay taxes and all that. Okay. Charlie Brown asks, Houston, what made you start the Houston with a Problem YouTube channel? Basically, I was invited onto other podcasts, and those all went well. And so people said, hey, start your own. And I looked at my YouTube channel, which had, I think, the only video I had up, I believe, was a video of I came across a Volkswagen Vanagon that had caught on fire. And I filmed that. And I think that was the only public video I had at the time. So I had 5,000 subscribers that had shown up before I'd ever really posted anything. And so people said, my roommate also told me to make one too. he's like, me, I told you. So I did that. I did quite a few podcasts in 2020 because I had done statistical analysis and forecasting for COVID, dating back to like early January 2020. I was like, hey, this thing spreads, this is how it's going to spread. So I did all statistical modeling and wrote articles and put them out there. So I was invited on to quite a few podcasts to talk about that. And those went pretty well. And then a year later, the GME thing came up, and I was talking about the mechanics behind that and getting invited onto podcasts. And what really launched it was Josh Hamilton and The Gist. He's like, hey, I liked your Twitter thread. Call on my show and talk about it. And I did, and it went bonkers. People made all sorts of weird hype videos and things like that are, it's really weird to watch myself and see like a music video playing, people going, yeah, whoa. I don't know if my brain will ever get used to that. So yeah, that's why there's a YouTube channel now, because apparently people want to listen to me ramble. Grandpa Barney, as a lineman, the single electron theory doesn't work at all. Good insulator has 7 to 10 circulating around the nucleus, so that doesn't work. And yes, they're fast, 186,000 kilometers per second fast. 186,000 miles per hour fast, 300,000 kilometers per second. So Grandpa Barney, who deals with electrons every day, he says BS, and I agree with him. I think it's a cutesy little mental exercise, and then you go, yeah, it's not going to work. So I agree with Grandpa on that one. '70 Nut, Houston, glad I'm not the only square. As a farm kid, I eagerly looked forward to the Farmer's Almanac. It was crazy learning how old wives' tales were often accurate at predicting crops and stuff. Yeah, I mean, those old wives' tales are oftentimes just looking at patterns. I went to a wedding, and my friend was like, you have to talk to my uncle. He's a dowser. He finds gold and oil and water by dowsing, and he's amazing. You totally dig him. I'm like, dowsing? Whatever. So I meet this guy, and we have this like 2-hour-long conversation about the Black Hills of South Dakota. The dude's not a dowser. The dude's a geologist. He's telling me about orogenies and subduction events and volcanic events and layers of rock and old, uplifted ocean floors and quartz veins and hot springs. And he's telling me geology. But what he's discovered is that the hicks he works for don't want to hire a geologist. They want to hire a dowser. So he goes out there and he's like, oh, where's this water? Oh, look at the water's right here. He just did this geology work ahead of time and knew what the hydrolysis was and hydrogeology. And he's like, yeah. So he went out there and pretended he was dowsing, but he was doing the geology version of that TV show Psych, where the guy's just a really good detective, but no one believes him, so he pretends he's a psychic. It's that, yeah. So those old wives' tales, there's pattern recognition. There's actually, years of data behind a lot of that stuff. We know that during an El Nino, California gets hammered. The Pacific Northwest is dry. During La Nina, Northwest gets hammered. Southern California is dry. We know that water warming off of the coast of Peru changes global weather patterns. So, we can say like, oh, it's El Nino, we're going to have a crazy winter, but the data behind it exists. So those old wives' tales oftentimes play out. Victor Govyadov, sorry. Houston, can quantum entanglement provide us with instant interstellar communication in the future? Happy birthday. Ooh. If you guys don't know quantum entanglement, it is essentially tying two pieces of matter to each other so that when you do one thing to one piece of matter, somewhere off at a distance, that same thing happens to the other piece of matter. So, if I've got an electron here and I shine I put a magnet over it so that spin stops for a moment to the magnetic field, then somewhere far away, there is an electron that's tied to it where that also happens. Now, I think it's a good hypothesis, it's a good idea that we could perhaps use that to do communication in the future, because binaries, ones and zeros, spin, no spin, spin, no spin. We can probably use something like that for instant communication. Why not? Now, the mechanism for how we would do that, I am not smart enough or up enough on such electronics. That's going to be definitely someone who's like a solid state physicist who's going to figure that out. But it would be a great way for us to be able to do like, you're on the Starship Enterprise and you're 1,000 light years away. How on earth are they having communications with the Federation back in San Francisco? Right? It says, Admiral so-and-so is calling Captain Picard. Captain Picard's like, yes, Admiral. How is that happening in real time if it takes 1,000 years for that light to go across the universe? Quantum entanglement could probably be the answer for that. There's an electron that's tied to an electron sitting in a lab somewhere, and they're communicating by making that electron do weird stuff. I think that's a pretty cool idea there, Victor. I dig it. Okay. Anna Rulnick. Oh, man. Sad today. My 80-year-old mother caught COVID. My 83-year-old father won't isolate. He has heart issues and diabetes. I'm too far away to help them. Feeling sad and helpless. Yeah, I can imagine, man. Oh, I'm sorry, Anna. That's awful. Hopefully they're vaccinated and boosted, and so that anything that happens is even below mild. Because the mild illness with COVID is still really gnarly. Hope it's just very, very, very low symptoms or no symptoms for them. And I wish them the best, and I'm sorry I have to deal with that, because it is heartbreaking to be across the country and not be able to help or do anything. Oof. Mud Flaps, Houston, do you still own Metamaterial? I don't hear we talk about them anymore. I do. I still own them. I have like 400 shares and then a couple thousand of the MMTLP preferred shares. So we'll see where that goes. Soon, they should be flipping over to Oilco. And I think shortly after that, they'll announce the sale of those oil fields. That Oilco stock should only exist for a little bit before it turns into cash money, baby. Excuse me. Benjamin, NASA hiring theologians to prep us for aliens? What gives? I saw some sort of blur about that. I've not dove deep. So this is... All right. So this is a book. When's the... This, all right. Let's go there. So it's a book that's coming out in 2022 talking about... So 2014 they hired this theologian. So they $1.1 million grant to study worshipers' interests and openness. So I think it was much more like, hey, we're going to ask you these questions for a week. It's not like they're hiring like, okay, theologian, we're going to pay you $65,000 a year in a pension to be our scientist on hand. I think it's more like, will you sit down and talk with somebody for a few hours and we'll pay a few $100? I think it's that kind of thing. So I don't think there's anything that big about it. Meh. Oops, I forgot to turn on the that. There we go. This is a New York Post article. I mean, the headline sounds fantastic, but when you get to the lead, it's that there was a $1.1 million grant and somebody went around asking theologians their opinions on things. And that was about it. It wasn't that say that they're hired. It was like, hey, here's $200. Talk to me. So nothing too big going on there. Hey, Liz Clayman's whistle has got some coordinates for us. Woo! Let's coordinate it. Okay. Bing. Bing. Google Earth is not responding when I hit the button. I don't like that. Okay. Oh, you can't understand it. What do you mean you can't understand it? If I put a comma there, can you understand it? What? Why can't you understand that? Oh, because there's... All right. Let's go like that. See if I can fix it if I do this. Do that. There we go. Haha. Discovered it. Okay, we're going to the south. We're going way south. We're going to Antarctica. Going to a pile of rocks in Antarctica. We're going to this particular pile of rocks in Antarctica, which is meow. What's that? That looks like a round thing with something pointing. Kitty cat, shut up. Meow. I don't know what that is. That is rocks. That is rocks. This is Algae Lake. And that is Bunger Hills. And that is Paz Cove. And that is Cape Henderson. Edisto Ice Tongue. Capcom Inlet. Looks like we got ourselves a whole bunch of ice. Not too far from the shore here. So this is where Antarctica ends. And then we've got an ice sheet. It's got some glaciers in here. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Kitty cat, what are you freaking out about? Sorry, guys, the cat's yelling. 1 second. Let me go smack the cat around. Kitty, what do you want? Oh, you want to go outside? It's 18 degrees outside. Sorry, the cat just wanted to go become a kitty sickle outside, and you know what? He's got fur. He's a big cat. He can figure it out. He's a fatty. So, this is a cool spot somewhere here in Antarctica. Algae Lake, I believe, is probably a lake with algae. Huh. So, yeah, algae blooms when there's meltwater in the pond. Cool. All right. I dig it. Where exactly are we located here? Are we below Africa? We are below... Oh, no, we're below Australia. Huh. Well, cool. I want to go there someday. My cousin Taylor, who is a landscape photographer and does natural history movies and stuff, he was supposed to go to Antarctica. Supposed to be there now, filming, and they had to cancel everything because of Omicron. So he spent Christmas with us. He's a pretty incredible photographer and drone video operator, and just amazing. He had the cover of Photography magazine when he was like 14 or 15 years old, and he's 23 now, and he's done like National Geographics. He's done British Airways campaigns. He's got, you know, these YouTube videos that get like 10 million hits on, you know, he likes to go, and his buddies go and recreate the Apple wallpapers every year, and they do stories on how they recreate them, and people love watching it. He does some pretty incredible stuff, and I wish he had gotten the chance to go to Antarctica this year. Maybe next year. Sorry, CJ, the cat went outside, so I can't show you the cat. He's outside going, damn it, it's cold. Why'd I go outside? Yeah. So, monkey's smart. She knows that the weather's up. She's like, no, I'll go pee and I'll come right back in. The cat is like, change this. Make this change. Okay. Natsuka Hirabayashi. Houston, why are you so obsessed with RC being better than Adam Aron when neither want a squeeze to happen to their stock? I'm banking on stronger community to make it happen. GME has no volume and no short interest. What? RC definitely wants a squeeze to happen. GME short interest is like 113% right now. So, yeah. No volume is because most of the volume is on the dark pools. And that is the entire reason why dark pools shouldn't exist, is because they're putting all those trades through the dark pools and not reporting prices, thus suppressing the price on the active exchanges, the lit exchanges. Adam Aron, you want under blanket. I can tell when you want under blanket. Give me that look. Go there. Adam Aron, he has not really done anything to help the value of retail. He hasn't. He hasn't made a single choice that has increased the value of retail stock. And whenever he does make a choice that involves the stocks in particular, it crashes the price. Whether it is convertible bonds resulting in 300 million added shares to the float, whether it is generating new shares and making the sale to only short hedge funds and dumping them on the market through the dark pools, crashing a rally, whether it is liquidating his and other board members and C-level executive stock onto the market. They have not done anything to help at all retail investors in their company. Now, that doesn't change the fact that it is a short squeeze play, but it would help if they, improved the fundamentals of the corporation, didn't give themselves giant signing bonuses and huge stock options, and then just dump it all. I don't think Adam Aron is good for AMC, and I think retail investors should get rid of the entire board and hire a new one that is going to keep retail investors in mind and is going to do something about the billions of dollars in debt that AMC has, while not giving themselves, $100 million in bonuses. Adam Aron's like, I don't get a salary. I've got to sell all my stock. The dude got $21 million in a bonus last January when the stock price rocketed because of the short squeeze, right? He got 21 million bucks. If you got $21 million, do you think you could survive off of that for a year? I think you'd survive just fine, right? Like, you don't, if you have $21 million and you put that $20 million cash into a Vanguard, you're going to be making what? $4 million a year in annuities after that. You're going to be fine. You don't need to sell another 1 to 2 million shares just to make ends meet 10 months later. That is ridiculous. You should be able to be just fine off of that. I think it's disingenuous, and I think that every choice he makes isn't with you in mind. It's with his golfing buddies in mind, who he went to business school with, because they work at all the hedge funds, they work at all the big institutions, and he's doing things for them and not for you. And that's my problem with Adam Aron. Okay. Brawl. You think MOAS is possible before March? Just a question. And what do you think of the options on January 21st? Options on January 21st are going to be a huge deal because there is a boatload of them. And so many already are in the money that so much volume is going to have to happen to make good on those deals that I think the January 21 is going to be a huge key as to making the sucker rocket. And who knows, we might just do baby squeeze and then a year later do another baby squeeze and a year later do another baby squeeze. We may be stuck in some sort of cycle like that. But if the price gets up to something significant, gets over 500, like closes over 500, then I think that evening we will have margin calls and liquidity requirements that a lot of these hedge funds will not be able to meet, and they're going to be facing forced liquidation. So the key is just how high it can get as a result of that January 21 options chain and the gamma squeeze that comes as a result. And if we get FOMO on top of that, I think there's a very real chance that MOAS can happen from all that. Liz Clayman, she's got I can't tell what that is. There's a little rocket. But thank you, Liz Clayman. It's UFO uncovered by melted snow. Oh, that's what it is. UFO, huh? Well, let's go here. Is that okay? Let's jump back in here. So UFO uncovered by melted snow. Well, this obviously is either a structure or it is a pool of water. So, and then that thing looks very inorganic. It looks very structured right there, whatever that is. But have we sent anybody there? Liz, do you want to mount an expedition and report back to us? Go to these coordinates and tell us what that is. I would love to find out. If you find out, let me know. All right. Bet stonks. The top CSGO skin sold for $30K. Number 2 went for $25K. So that's the Ubisoft NFTs. That seems like a reasonable price, all right? So if $12,000 pays for your time to get that, then there's a premium on top of that. So it's $40 an hour for your time if it's selling for $25. Not too shabby. So CSGO skins for EVE Online. Okay. Oh, that's what those are. CSGO. Okay, thank you. I'll look into those ones. Okay. Rick, did the ETFs also rise in January with GME? I believe they did. Let's make sure here. There we go. XRT. 1 year. Yeah, we had a spike in January. XRT rose quite a bit, actually. Oh, I've got to make it so you can see what's going on here. You go away. So XRT in general is way up over the year. So it had a high of what, 104, but coming at the beginning of January, it's at $60, and then we had a spike on January 27th when everything else spiked at $91, and then it crashed hard when GME crashed hard, and then slowly rose again. So in March, when the price of GME hits almost 350, it's right back up there. Crashed hard, climbed again. So yeah, so we've in November when the price of GME was back at 250, it climbed right back up again. So it's very, very heavily tied in with GameStop for sure. Yeah, we should expect a spike, be my guess. All right, well, it's 4:30 already. This show feels like it's going quick today. And of course, it just resets there. And let's get back to a spot where... Did I talk about you being so lazy, Monkey Butt? This Monkey Butt is not in her A game when she's stuck here with me doing a show. She's like, oh, he's just talking at that screen again. Why is he always doing that? But she is a beast. You are a beast when you want to be, aren't you? It's just getting side eye. She's like, don't you let this light in, you son of a bitch. Hungry Caveman, isn't there a max of $3,000 capital gains loss that you can claim? I think for individuals, yes. But if you are an institution or an LLC or anything like that, you can claim a lot more. And most people, like Ryan Cohen has Ryan Cohen Holdings Corporation. So he controls the corporation that controls all of his holdings, right? And so that corporation is now a moneymaker. And so he can do wash sales if he wanted to for a loss and take tax breaks on it. Some of the folks who exercise options, they might exercise their options at a certain price. Let's say stock's trading at $40. You exercise your options and then you sell it for $35, right? When the price goes down, you might be able to claim a big old tax break there. Yeah. Ketogenesis, Houston, how do 500 million shares trade in a week without fraudulent activity? Is there any other stock that trades the entire float on a weekly basis? How do they do this with 2% of the float? It's shenanigans. That's what I mean. Theoretically, you can have high frequency traders trade the same single share back and forth 500 million times in a day. But is that likely? Did they really spend the time to program that trade to go boing, 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 back and forth to make that volume? And we have to remember that when we have a reported volume of 500 million trades in a week, multiply it by 3. And that's the actual number of trades that went through the dark pools. So there is a lot of shenanigans are going on. And it is in the best interest of the market, investors, and the U.S. government to eliminate the amount of shenanigans that are happening. We need to close the dark pools, force everything through lit pools, make it so naked sales can't happen, and force folks to close their positions. I mean, what if having a naked position, right? You make a naked position on a stock. What if you had a 1-year time limit? What if you wanted to short a stock, you could borrow that for 1 year, sell it, and in a year's time, you had to buy it back. You had to close your position, whether the stock went up or down. And that was the gamble you're taking. You shouldn't be able to borrow one of these shares, sell it, and then sit on it for a decade, 15 years, 20 years. There should be some sort of time limit where you've got to close your position. Like your bet's off. You had a year for this bet to play, and it didn't. Oh well, close your position, get done. There's not enough actual risk involved for a play that should be inherently risky. We need to introduce the risk into the environment so that companies that are shorted aren't just shorted for the sake of shorting. That you have to honestly believe that GameStop in a year's time is not going to exist anymore, or their stock price is going to significantly drop. And if it does, cool, you won, you made whatever your winnings are, your position's closed, start again. Borrow them again and do it again. But if your ability is to take a healthy company that has billions of dollars a year in sales and just dilute their entire float by creating naked shares and driving the price down, getting retail to panic and sell, dropping the price even more, and your entire play has nothing to do with the fundamentals of the company, but based upon the mechanics of essentially smoke and mirrors that should be illegal and are definitely unethical, but there's a loophole that allows you to do it. I think that loophole needs to be sewn shut. We need to fundamentally change how stocks are traded, and we need to make this economy not dependent upon destroying business. It needs to be fostering business. We need to foster companies that employ people and provide a service, not figure out ways we can destroy them and get bucks out of them as a result. So, yeah. Meh. Sitting Bull. You can forward the $3,000 loss for future years until it's exhausted. There you go. So if you made a play and you lost $9,000 in that play, you have a $3,000 offset coming for the next 3 years. I like it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying there, Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull, anyone making any charitable contributions, be sure that your funds settle and your contribution arrives to the donor in their account by 12/31. If mail, be sure to pay for guaranteed delivery date receipt by that day. Excellent point. Because if you audited, they're going to look at that stuff and be like, well, the check wasn't cashed until the 2nd of January, or 3rd of January, whenever Monday is. And they might figure out some sort of way to make you pay. Flower 4, where did the term light years come from? Well, it's the distance that it takes light to travel in 1 year. So if a photon leaves, the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second, or 186,000 miles per hour per second. And so in 1 second, it can cover that distance. In 2 seconds, it can cover twice that much. In a year is, oh goodness. Sorry, I've got hair on my nose or something. It's tickling me. I think it's like 11 million seconds in a year. Seconds in a year. So 31 million in a year. All right. Okay. Is that right? 3.154. Oops. Clear. Oh, bring up calculator. Turn off Google Earth. Calculator. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 31 million seconds in a year. And if we're going 300,000 kilometers per second, we are going to be traveling 100,000 million billion 9 trillion miles in a year. So 9.462 trillion, kilometers. 9.462 trillion kilometers per year is what we're doing. That is a light year. That's how many kilometers a light year is. And if we divide that sucker by 1.6, we're at 5.9 trillion miles. So in 1 year, light can travel 5.9 trillion miles. So when someone says that planet is 4 light years away, well, we're looking at 23 trillion miles away is how far away that sucker is. The Earth is 8 light minutes away from the sun. We're 93 million-ish miles away from the sun. So it takes 8 minutes for light from the sun to leave the sun and hit the Earth. That's why you get delays. You're trying to send a message to the moon. There's actually a delay between when the message leaves the Earth, is received by the person, and they can send a message back. We're trying to do contact with rovers on Mars. There is a several minute delay as we send information to Mars, and it travels to Mars, gets received by the little rover on Mars, and they send information back. So you can't do it in real time. You can't be like, hey, Martian rover, I'm going to play a joystick and get you to do stuff, because there's such a long lag that you're going to get messed up trying to do these things. You have to give it specific actions and program those actions in, because it's going to take time for it to receive that stuff, process it, and then do its thing. There was what book was it? Cosmic Code, I believe it was. I think I'd recommend it here on before. I read it when I was in high school. Kind of gives you an introduction to relativity. This the one? Yes, here. Quantum Physics, Language of Nature, Heinz R. Pagels. This book is a great section on relativity in here. And he has this example of the 11 million mile man. And, oh, shoot. Of course, you can't see the book because I didn't put it up on the screen. So, there we go. There we go. That's the book. Cosmic Code. Came out maybe 20, 25 years ago. 25 years ago, probably around there. He's got the 11 million mile man. So he's got his brain up here, feet 11 million miles away. And he says, I want to take a step. So through his nervous system, traveling at the speed of light is a signal. It says, move your feet. It goes through his body. And a minute later, the feet get the signal and they start moving. Starts taking a step. And because it takes a minute for that light to reach his eyes, that, a minute to the feet, a minute for the light to reach his eyes, see his foot move, then the next signal goes, take a step. It goes down the other leg. So there can be, 3 minutes between thinking I want to take a step and the second step happening because of that latency and the speed of light that's involved. Now, the IEX exchange, which a lot of people are talking about as a lit exchange that is involved in lawsuits, all sorts of stuff dealing with the baby squeeze and turning off the buy button, they wanted to slow down access to the markets. And so they made like 20-something thousand miles of fiber optic cable, spooled it up so that any information coming through the exchange has to travel through all of this cable before it heads out to other brokerages and institutions. And they wanted to slow down the transactions because they didn't want to give anybody favorability over others. And so the closer these trading houses came to Wall Street, the faster they got their information, and the trading computers would have, a nanosecond advantage over all of these other brokers out there. And IEX was like, no, we're going to level the playing field, and everybody's going to be slowed down by the fact that all this information is going to pass through these spools of fiber optic cable, and your trading computers now no longer have an advantage. I dig that. I can respect that. Okay. Sitting bull, I get quantum entanglement every time I cook spaghetti. Yeah, quantum entanglement is whenever you shove your earbuds into your pocket. William Morgan, I posted the live Marco Metzler interview from last week on Houston's Twitter just now. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I retweeted it last week, I believe, when it happened on Christmas Eve. They're just talking about, the essential mechanics behind assets under management. When assets under management shrink and you have a whole bunch of liability, your liabilities grow as a result. And so if there is hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars of Chinese bonds at play that all of a sudden aren't worth anything, that is wealth that's evaporated. If your institution is like, hey, I'm a $1 trillion institution, I've got all this weight I can throw around, I've got all this wealth, give me a loan, I'm going to make some plays here and there, and people are cool, here you go. And if all of a sudden you took all these loans assuming that you're a $1 trillion institution, and all of a sudden $300 billion of those assets just go poof into existence, and you're now a $700 billion institution, well, you might now have more liabilities out there than is allowed. And those who lent to you are going to make you come up with a bunch of money until either you close those positions that are your liability, or you're able to create more assets under management. So that is what happened to Melvin. Melvin's assets under management shrank by 50% compared to their liabilities. And they were either to get liquidated out of existence and close all their positions for their short positions on GME, or they could take several $billion from 0.72 and Citadel and all of a sudden meet those margin requirements. And that's what they did. They took $2.75 billion from their buddies to meet those requirements and to not face liquidation. But now if you have all these banks and prime brokers and big institutions did all of a sudden each one of them are having tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth vanish, then all these guys can be facing margin calls and not meet the liquidation requirements because all their buddies are also in pain because they invested in these Chinese bonds. And that is why we could see lots of liquidation happen once the realization of how much money has just vanished out of the assets under management of a lot of these folks. And that's all Metzler and Boss Blunts were talking about. There's a lot of defaulting going on, and there's a lot of money that's just gone. You know, if you have a big fund or institution, you take folks' cash, you make some plays, you buy a bunch of Chinese bonds, you know, about $40 billion Chinese bonds with your money, that's going to be our collateral that we're going to use to make all those other plays. And all of a sudden, that $40 billion is gone. Then your clients are like, hey, where's my money? And the fund manager's like, I don't know. Then those clients might go, well, you know what? I'm going to take my cash out of here. I'm not going to let you invest anymore. And assets under management just start shrinking. It's a snowball effect. The same way that these hedge funds have shorted companies by generating naked shares and diluting the float, right? So you create millions and billions more shares. It drops the value of the price, and then the retail investors panic and sell, which drops the price even more. Well, if you've got people in your fund pulling money out and your assets under management are shrinking, that's going to cause other folks in your fund to pull their money out. It's going to cause your assets to shrink, and eventually you have no more fund. They're done. It can work both ways. So that's the entire premise behind what Boss Blunts and the Good Doctor were talking about. So yeah, with Metzler. Okay. Cat wants. If I had a camera for the cat, it would just be in my roommate's room. He'd be sitting there looking lovingly at my roommate all day long. The cat's fixed. He's fixed. He's a fixed cat. Sitting Bull, have you seen The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Bigfoot movie? Yeah, with Sam what's his butt. Yeah, I've seen that. It's an interesting, weird movie. That's for sure. One of those like, oh, that's artsy fartsy and weird. But yeah, I was not offended by the movie. I was intrigued the entire time, and then it ended, and I was like, oh, it's over. I did feel bad for Bigfoot though. I thought Bigfoot didn't deserve that. Bigfoot's just, mind its own business. Houston, what's a star fort? Is there any significance to them? I don't know what a star fort is. What's a star fort? Oh. These things? Oops. Like forts shaped like stars? Apparently you had a walled city and then you were able to attack two different sides from each point. These things? I think that's what they were. There's examples of them all over. It was a tactical advantage, I believe, so you could attack multiple sides at the same time. So if you're getting flanked, you could take on all sorts of different directions. But I thought you were asking something about like something in the space that was a star fort. But I think you're talking about this type of thing. So hope that answered whatever you're asking. Highway Frog, does the rest of your family believe in the squeeze the way you believe? I have at least one cousin, a sister, and a brother who are all invested. And so there's some of them in there who listen to me. And my cousin actually bought without listening to me. She bought on her own a long time ago and is just sitting on some shares. And then she's like, "Oh, you're in this too?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal." Oh, so yeah, they're involved. Brian H. Would Evergrande getting derated hurt the hedgies enough to trigger MOAS? If the hedgies are invested in that, right? The biggest investments seem to be coming from large commercial banks, groups like HSBC and things like that. And that may hurt their ability to lend. They may face a credit crunch because they might not have the cash on hand to do lending if they don't have that wealth, they don't have that capital. The hedge funds, if the individual funds have bought any of those bonds, they could be really screwed. Yeah, because they can't use that for collateral anymore, and it won't count as assets under management towards the current margin they have, or if they want to get new margin. And they need margin to make plays. That's the entire act of these hedge funds: is they get capital, they get assets, and then they borrow money to make plays. They make all these plays, and whatever they win on those plays, that's the money that goes to their investors. Steve W. As a retail owner of AMC, can we sell more shares only to pay off debt and then demand a dividend? I mean, that's one of the ways to pay off debt. That's what GameStop did. They sold shares and they paid off all their debt, and now they're free and clear without increasing the float too much. They sold, like 6 million shares or something? AMC's price level, they have billions of dollars in debt. So they're going to have to sell billions of dollars in shares to do that. And so far, when they sold shares, they never paid off debt with it. So, and they did it in such a way that it wasn't slowly over time as not to impact the price. They just dump it. Oh, it's 11 million shares, dump. 25 million shares, dump. And so that crashed the price, which hurt their ability to gain enough money to pay off their debts. So if they do it, they need to do it slowly over a long period of time and not crash the stock price. Otherwise, they got to sell even more shares to pay off that debt. And they also need to look at executive compensation and bonuses and be like, hey, you guys don't get bonuses until this debt's gone. You can draw minimum wage until then. I don't care. But they really need to focus on getting that debt out of the way. And once that debt's out of the way and the fundamentals of their company are up there, then the value of that stock increases even more. Okay. $4:53. We're going to go another 7 or 10 minutes here. Run out of water. Got to make sure the cat isn't frozen to death out there. And I'll probably do some Twitch streams. Maybe I might do a Twitch stream tonight. So you guys catch me on Twitch later in like 5 or 6 hours. I'll get on there and do some twitching. But yeah, okay. So Javi A. Houston looking to buy books that are being taught by institutions in source to find a list of what books are being taught. Well, I mean, a great way to look is to just sort of search courses at colleges. And oftentimes the syllabus will be publicly available and you can see what book they're using. So like, let's see here. What do I have over here? So like if I'm teaching astronomy, right? So the cosmic perspective. So like astronomy for non-majors will be the essential cosmic perspective, whatever edition is the most recent one. And then there is the one for majors will be the cosmic perspective. Which, do I have the regular cosmic perspective? No, it might be at school. So like this one is not the math heavy one, but the one that's just the cosmic perspective will have all of the physics problems that science majors would actually have to do. So this is like the one I would teach to art students or film students or whatever, or non-majors that are getting a liberal arts degree. But there's equivalents, dozens of them that come out every year from other groups. Where's my geology book? Is it this one? That might be. No, where are you? Where are you, kick-ass geology book? No, not this one. That's an old one. Stars and Galaxies, that's an old one. Where's my geology books? Where's my kick-ass geology book? I don't know. What's civilization? No, that's history. Huh. All right, sorry. I'd recommend looking at the syllabi, the syllabuses of various instructors, and I'll give you an idea of what books they're using to teach. I break the rules because books like The Cosmic Perspective, astronomy has not changed much in the last 10 years. So I might be required by the school to say, oh, the 10th edition is the book that we're using in this class. But I tell my students, I'm like, hey, I don't care what version you get. As long as it's like the 4th edition or higher, you're fine. All they do is they reorganize some of the chapters, but all the information is the same. Nothing's changing. And you can buy these older versions off of Amazon or eBay for like $2 rather than spending $200 on the book. And I don't teach from the book. I create my own lessons that are about space and stars and everything else. And I do it in my own organization. But I will reference like, hey, there's a section about the moon. And so when I talk about the moon in this slide presentation or do these little experiments, go to the, look up the moon in your book and you can read about it if you need to review this information later. I don't like the price of textbooks. They are ridiculous and punitive. And I understand, like, you're a professor. You're spending a couple years writing this book. It's in a specialty field. If you're writing a book for an upper division geology or engineering class, you might only sell 2,000 of these books a year to the 2,000 students at various institutions across the United States, and you're competing with others, other engineers who are writing textbooks as well. And if you sell those books and you spent a year of your life writing this book and you sell 2,000 of them, well, the publisher's going to get half of it. And if you sell a book for $2, then you're only making $1,000. If you sell it for $10, you might make $10,000. Is that really worth a year of your time? Right? So yeah, the price is going to be like $150 for these books because they only sell a certain number of them. And the people who wrote it still need to make a living. And I totally get that. It's just that the students can't afford that. And there needs to be some other system that gets these folks compensated out there. I don't know what the answer would be to that, but there needs to be something. So yeah, do that. That's my advice. Okay. Okay. VT asks, are YouTubers paid to pump and tell us to hold $1 million and hold the bag? I don't know if they're paid to do that or what. I don't know where folks get money from. I do personally believe that somewhere in the peak, there are folks who are going to sell for a ridiculous amount of money. But I am not going to assume that I'm going to be one of them. I don't think I have the ability to sell at the exact moment that the price is going to peak. So that's why I'm doing a ladder. I'm going to sell my first share at a price that if I sold all my shares at that price, I can retire and live comfortably. And then work my way up, selling for more and more and more for each share until just either it's time to dump them all or, it might be over. I don't know. I am not going to rely on the fact and assume that out of the millions of investors out there, I'm the one who's going to sell at the peak. That is stupid and very ill-advised. Gherkin's got a different issue. He's going to ladder in a different way where he's going to sell, whenever it reaches a certain price level, he's going to put a share at a stop loss. So if it dies below that, and then, work his way up, because it's going to do all sorts of little wavies along the way. He explained his system. His is a little more complicated than my just set a limit order for this and just get rid of the share. The first couple of shares that go, it's going to take, with my model, 7 shares to be cracking $1 million a share, right? At 14 shares, I'm cracking $20 million a share. And I've got plenty left in the tank, in the reserve, for doing that later. But there's going to be a lot of folks left holding the bag. If they're assuming like, oh, I'm gonna wait until it's $1 billion a share, you might not get the opportunity. So, like, I don't need $1 billion. I don't. I would like to retire. I would like to, do my thing. I would like to be able to take monkey butt on adventures and go camping in the woods all the time. That is my idea of what retirement is not having to worry about going back to work to make a paycheck to pay for my next adventure. The adventure is just paid for. And I don't need much to do that. With $4 million, I can make, a couple $100,000 a year in annuities and be totally happy. That works for me. My lifestyle does not require making more than a few $100,000 a year to be happy. So, I am not setting. If I can get $1 billion and have the private yachts and whatever, rad. But I'm not counting on it. I will ladder sell my way up, make sure that I can achieve my bare minimum goals and still leave myself the opportunity to infinity pool the rest. I don't think it's a good idea to bag hold to some sort of level that may not be achieved because you have funds that will sell 100,000 shares at $1,000, and that will close out the position of one particular hedge fund, and they're done. There's lots of people who have a lot of shares of these things, and when they start to see those zeros in their account, and they're like, well, I got $200 million in there, sell. They're going to be doing that. They're not going to be sitting and holding and waiting to sell those 200,000 shares for $1 million each. They're going to be getting out because they're going to have so much more money, and they just don't care at that point. There's a point when there's so much money involved that who gives a shit, right? You're going to sell. And when you guys see all those zeros in your account, a lot of you are going to sell too. That's just human nature. And I'm sure there's folks out there that are going to infinity pool, and they might be the ones that really truly get something in that tippy top peak, but it's only going to be one person that sells at the absolute top, and the other 10 million of us are not going to be that person. Yeah. Oh, Mrs. Liz's super chat. Sorry. Okay, let's find Liz's super chat. Sorry if I missed super chat. Liz Clayman. There we go. Oh, and Goldman Sachs intern. Thank you for your super chat there. Al from Boston says DTCC can chill or freeze or delist a stock if it endangers banks, hedge funds, or the market. Your thoughts? I have not seen that. I don't think it would do anyone any good to freeze the stock, especially when positions need to be closed. They could have that power, but what good would it do them? If you freeze GameStop for a month, and you have, 1 billion shares and you get purchased to close all these positions because these guys are being liquidated and they need to close these positions, what good does freezing the stock do for you except create a giant backlog of purchase orders, or buy orders, right? And then all of a sudden when you unfreeze that stock, the volume is going to be so insane that the price will be absolutely just astronomical. It would not serve the DTCC well to do that. yeah, it would not serve them well to do any of those pauses. So having a fear of them like pausing it for a month or more or delisting doesn't serve them any purpose, because if they delist GME and all of a sudden like we're not going to trade GME anymore, then GameStop can sue the living shit out of the DTCC, right? Like they are a publicly traded company, they should be allowed to trade publicly. So they're going to run into regulatory problems if they do that, and financial problems. It would not help anybody. So I'm not too worried about them delisting or freezing or doing that stuff to stocks. And if they do delist GME, then GME can just move to their own exchange on the Loopring network. So, and that would trigger all sorts of crazy stuff. Probably some sort of weird expert network. But anyway, it would trigger a squeeze if that happened. Okay. All right. Well, we're past 5 o'clock on my time. So let's see here. Sorry, I missed your super chat there, Liz. Benjamin, what do you think is the best way to know that shorts have closed their positions or are closing them during MOS? I think volume is going to tell us. Volume and price action. So, like, the volume, if we're seeing volumes of hundreds of millions a day or more, and the price is just going up, then that gives you an idea that forced buying is happening, especially if it's not the FOMO folks. Like all of a sudden a bunch of people that weren't paying attention, I was like, oh, I need to get some GME shares. If we're past that, if we're past $1,000 a share, then the regular folks are not buying. They're not. It's going to be institutions that are buying $1,000 share. You're not buying $1,000 share. I'm not buying at $1,000 share. If the price gets into that realm, it is only institutions that are being forced to buy that are doing it. So there you go. That's the way I see it. All right. We have another one. Wildcat Strike, thank you for the super chat there. And is that a fox? A cat? Fox cat. Cat fox. I'm out of water. Time for me to get some dinner. Let's see here. Do we have any other pressing ones that I should jump in here? Is that it? Is that it for us, Monkey? That might be it for us for the day. Look for me on Twitch. On Wednesday, I'm interviewing Citadel Air. So 2 o'clock Pacific time on Wednesday. We're going to be meeting up with Citadel Air, and hopefully all the sound and everything will work perfectly, and I won't have any mistakes, and it'll be a perfect show, and it'll go well. We'll talk about the legal issues with Citadel claiming that he's stomping all over their trademark by making a fake airline for Citadel. It should be good. We'll chit chat with them and talk about that. All right, monkey butt. All right, monkey butt. Yeah, you want to say goodbye to everybody? Come on. Come on. Come here. Let's say goodbye to him. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, you lazy dog. Get over here. Come on. Get over here. Oh, stretch it out. That's right. Say goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody. And boom.